Now, I didn't watch Hassan yesterday. I didn't watch this yesterday, but I want to react to it and see if there's any difference between me and Hassan on this point. God, I hope not. All right, let's go. Let's watch it.
War with Russia over Ukraine. Oh, totally, dude. I love, if there's one thing you guys know about me, I love war. I'm a big fan of war. Like, I can't get enough of it. You know, stonks are not doing well, so I'm excited for the defense stonks to, you know, go to the moon this upcoming week. You know, it's very cool. I'm a big fan of war. Some might even say I'm the god of war. I'm like Kratos, you know? TikTok is pushing Philly D's Ukraine videos about Ukraine. They're getting so many views this insane. Check out all of his last few videos. Holy dude, what's going on with Germany and Russia? Peace talks between US and Russia fail again. Dude, war is good, baby. War is good for the ratings. Wow. Oh my God, Philip DeFranco's channel just became, you know, Philip the State Department. Oh, that was so bad. That was, let's get back to the drawing board on that one. So here's the reality though, okay? The thing is, like, for people like Philip DeFranco and the average American and all of your liberal friends, of course they're gonna be like, yeah, we got to do everything we can to defend Ukraine or whatever, because like that's what the media is telling them. They're not going to think about it beyond the point of like, manufacturing consent doesn't work this way, okay? Manufacturing consent doesn't work in the way that you think, where like people are getting together and deciding like, we should do this, we should be pro-war. It's more so about people that get elevated to those positions within media for having that perspective naturally and organically, right? That's it. Here. And I don't think like Phil DeFranco personally is like, oh yeah, it'll be sick because good for ratings, or he might, I don't even know if he has a position on this. I'm assuming he does. I just personally, like I said yesterday, and I will continue saying, I do not believe that this is adequate. I do not believe that this is the smart thing to do. I do not believe that like arming Ukraine and then fucking sending troops over to Ukraine, like none of this is a good idea. It's just not. It's not a fucking good idea at all. Okay? Yesterday, for the first time ever, I noticed the United States government used the phrase lethal aid as a euphemism for arms or weapons. By the very next day, national media adopted the phrase without even using quotes. The first shipment of assistance recently directed by President Biden to Ukraine arrived in Ukraine tonight. The shipment includes 200,000 pounds of lethal aid, including...
What is lethal aid? Lethal aid? You mean arms? You mean weapons? Lethal aid. American food. American food. Over 30 news sources are using the words lethal aid now, apparently. What the f? We have a word for that. It's called arms. It's called weapons. What?
Ammunition for the frontline defenders of Ukraine. 90 tons of U.S. lethal aid arrives in Ukraine as the border tensions with Russia rise. What the f is that? Like, what is that? What is lethal aid? Like, what do you mean?
I'm having the exact take. This is so funny. I'm having the exact take that Hassan had. This is funny.
What do you mean? You mean weapons? That's the only thing we're good at, is giving lethal aid. That's it. And then at home, we never think about the impact of that at home. Like, we love talking about how stupid K-Konas are. Oh yeah, you want to shoot COVID. You want to shoot COVID. Okay. Well, our liberal State Department is also saying lethal aid. How is that any different? Like, these minor tweaks play a larger role in changing people's attitudes about certain things. Neoliberals are out here being like, we're applying lethal aid to Ukraine. That's sick, man. That's really cool. That's really tight. Every single person is going buck wild on the Ukraine stuff. Every single person is like, it just popped off. So now we're just going straight up. This
is where I'm wrong. You know, I should be injecting myself more into this because of course every lib is going to scream for war. You disgusting, vile pieces of shit. You absolutely you garbage. The worst part of this is it gives Ukraine this false sense that the United States is going to back them. This makes war more likely. Because if Ukraine actually evaluated rationally their position versus Russia's position, they wouldn't rush into conflict. But because they're getting weapons from the US, they're suddenly thinking, wow, we can fight. The US is going to come and rescue us. They could get diluted and increase the likelihood of violent conflict.
Like, we're going brazy with it, you know? We're just, and in the latest sequence of L's, we have now decided that, you know, we're going to send fucking, Biden is going to choose which forces he wants to send over to Ukraine. And the entire media apparatus, the entirety of mainstream media is looking at this as, why would Putin invade Ukraine again? Ukrainian families on the Russian border live in fear of Putin invasion. U.S. evacuating diplomats from the Ukraine embassy. And it's like, okay, that's, first of all, it's not acceptable for Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. It's not, right? I just make no mistake. I do not believe that it is an appropriate thing for Vladimir Putin to do. So let me just get that out of the way so that people do not misunderstand my position. Having said that, however, the reasoning as to why there is more troop activity at the fucking Ukrainian border on the Russian side specifically is because we keep fucking juicing the Ukrainians. And we're like, we're going to put you in NATO. What is this? I thought the NATO was the Western alliance, like the Western Hemisphere alliance. And now it's like Ukraine is also a part of the West. What's not a part of the West, motherfucker? Everyone is just an expressly anti-USSR, anti-communist fucking organization is now adding additional, you know, adding Ukraine into the fucking fold. Why the would Russia ever want that? Like, why would they want that? Can you imagine a world in which
NATO is specifically premised on being an anti-Soviet alliance? The Soviet Union requested to join NATO when it first was set up, and they were rejected. So like there's no question about it.
Like, I don't know, the Chinese government was like, we are going to turn Canada into a military base, okay? We're going to turn Canada and Mexico into forward operating.
These are it's so funny how it's funny that Hassan and I have like the same exact take. It's so funny.
Bases.
It's absurd.
In our endless
because he's rational, chat. Because these are voices we need elevated. We need more. Oh my God. There's just no one. There's no one pushing a non-right-wing warmonger view.
Effort to you know, stop the capitalist rot coming out of Western imperialist forces. Western imperialism is a serious problem. Now we're going to put bases in Canada and we're going to put bases in Mexico. People are saying Cuba. Yeah, that's a great example. What happened with the Cuban Missile Crisis? And even then, the Cuban Missile Crisis only happened because America put missiles directed at the USSR in Turkey. Here's the reality, okay? While it is still completely unacceptable for the Russian troops to like go and invade Ukraine, obviously. So I, unlike every fucking content creator, I'm going to be 100% honest with you and tell you, I don't have the fucking answers, but I do know what not to do. Okay. And what not to do is just like keep fucking pumping, keep funneling weapons into Ukraine. Who knows who's getting those weapons. Okay. And use idiotic justifications to fucking send more military there and escalate this into saber rattling. Okay. Or a step above saber rattling, because there is legitimacy to the point that, like, you know, Ukraine wants to maintain its autonomy, its independence. At this stage, the only way to prevent serious fucking war or annexation or anything like that is by continuing and normalizing your fucking relations with countries that you already are engaging in trade with and not treating them like a foreign adversary. Okay? And Ukraine's ISIS is already there. It's just fucking Nazi paramilitaries that they're giving money to and that they're giving guns to. For the record, for people being like, this is going to make a Ukrainian ISIS, it's there already. I literally agree. Your worst take on Ukraine, I agree with 99% of the time, but fucking Christ, defending an ally from the aggression of an imperial wannabe fascist is good. First of all, we are the imperialist wannabe fascist as well as Russia is, for the record.
Wait. What countries is Russia currently imperialized in right now? I mean, you have border disputes with populations that are majority Russian ethnic, Russian linguistic populations in neighboring border territories. And these republics were created after the fall of the Soviet Union. So it's not like these lines were handed down from God, okay? There's certainly an argument that these lines could be moved to fit more with the national polities that are in the region. And it's something that we should be okay with as a reasonable a readjustment of a status quo that was slapped together with the collapse of the Soviet Union. Let's be fucking real here. Number one. Number two, the United States of America is by far and away the most aggressively imperialist country. We're currently supporting conflicts in almost every continent. Please stop. Please stop.
Record and our business, like, here's how I think, okay? I don't think Russia should invade Ukraine, obviously, but us having a say in that conversation is insane. And motherfuckers will say, not this time. This time is appropriate. Not this time. This time is actually appropriate.
It's every appropriate. They always say it every time.
Without realizing that you are basically still advocating for further NATO involvement. You're still advocating for building fucking military bases. You're still advocating for further escalation of conflict against a country that we have declared our foreign enemy. And that's it. I don't know what the best answers are, but I do know what bad answers are. And bad answers are trying to fucking put Ukraine into NATO, an organization designed specifically to say fuck you to the USSR, fuck you to communism, international communism, an organization that is still being utilized to enact Western imperialism, like taking a fucking neighbor of a country that we've declared a foreign adversary and like adding them onto the let's fuck this country organization is obviously a fucking threat. Like, that's crazy to assume that that is not, you know, that's not a threatening action against this other nation. I feel like there's a distinct difference between capitalist American aggression in Iraq and defending an autonomous country against imperialism. Just because the USA is also imperialistic doesn't mean we shouldn't also fight against Russian imperialism. Just having a discussion. Please don't drag me. I'm not dragging you.
The United States of America supporting literal Nazi battalions is not defending against Russian imperialism. These are far-right, irredentists, Nazis who want to subjugate Russian speakers, who want to take territory from Russia, who want to aggressively engage in ethnic cleansing. That's who we're supporting in Ukraine, okay? Let's be real here. Please stop. This isn't the Palestinians being colonized. Get real. Get real. If you want to oppose Russia, get our banks in order. Start keeping track of how oligarch money is flowing to real estate in New York and LA and Vancouver and Toronto and London. Oopsie-daisy. Mike is starting to, you want to help Russia? Don't let their oligarchs steal the money and the resources from the Russian people and expose our bankers who make it happen and facilitate the laundering of their money in the U.S. Now you're talking about stuff we actually have control over. Now you're talking about the real shit. No, that's not going to happen. Let's keep that quiet. Who do you think's buying in Billionaires Row in New York City right now? Russian oligarch money. But that will cost our rulers money. Well, whoopsie. Yeah, let's just do lethal aid instead. Congress bans arms Ukrainian militia linked to neo-Nazis. Included a ban on U.S. aid to Ukraine from going to the Azov battalion. Guess what, chat? They got integrated officially into the military. Uh-oh. It was incorporated into the National Guard of Ukraine. Oops. The Azov Battalion was founded in 2014. Its first commander. Several members of militia, which has been integrated to the Ukrainian National Guard, are self-avowed neo-Nazis. Last year, online posts by the militia's news service showed members testing U.S.-made grenade launchers at a firing range. Those posts have since been deleted, and the Ukrainian National Guard insisted in a January statement that the Ukraine launchers were not in Azov's possession. By the way, U.S. officials have said vetting required under the so-called Leahy Law prevents United States from aiding Azov. The Leahy Law bans U.S. aid from going to groups when the Secretary of State has credible information that such unit has committed a gross violation of human rights. But proponents of a ban specific to Azov say the Leahy Law did not preclude it from getting aid, as the Secretary of State has never made such a determination about the group. Oh, wait a minute. The Secretary of State didn't make a determination about a Nazi group? What a surprise! Also, I don't even think this actually was signed into law, was it? Okay, it was. Okay, it was. It was passed. Was it passed in the Senate and signed? But Mike, our stock market is down, and we need Boeing and Raytheon to get $12 billion more. Yeah, exactly.
But we are utilizing the situation in Ukraine, which is an honorable and just situation from the Ukrainian perspective, to continue doing additional Western imperialism, to keep beefing up the ranks of NATO, to keep increasing the legitimacy of NATO, which is a organization designed...
I think it's I gotta say, I think it's a bit much to say that Ukraine is honorable and good. Okay, let's calm down.
With the express purpose of defeating communism all around the fucking world, okay? And defeating Russia. Well, not Russia, the USSR, which has been defeated. They succeeded, okay? Every single time I get involved in foreign policy takes, it turns into something that is like significantly just awful. Everyone always has a deep understanding of racism or whatever. They're like very progressive on every other issue. When it comes to anti-imperialist takes, when it comes to like having an approach where like America should be less involved in world affairs like this, like we are not the fucking world police. It's like everyone starts yelling at me because you get all your news from fucking NBC and you can't stop. A Ukrainian official is even stating that the West is overstating its Russian buildup at the border. So the other problem is also this. There is obviously legitimate fears, especially on the Eastern Front, right? From Ukrainian families that live there. They do not want a fucking Crimea situation. They do not want the Russian military to like go across the border and like start murking fools. Okay, that is a legitimate fear that people have. But by and large, Ukraine's NSC Secretary Danilov tells BBC he does not expect an imminent invasion and doesn't share the panic which he connects to geopolitical and domestic processes in the West. The buildup of...
Okay, I did not see this tweet. I did not see this report. So basically, Hassan. Wow. You liberal idiots will fall for anything. They couldn't even get their puppets in Ukraine to say the same lies. Pathetic. Pathetic. He didn't say Ukraine was honorable good. He said the desire for continued independence as a state was from their viewpoint was honorable and good. Fine.
Russian troops at the Ukrainian border isn't as rapid as some claim. The entire purpose of this conversation that we're seeing on BBC, because the UK also came out and revealed more information about this.
And by the way, Chad, is there any evidence, for example, that Crimea, that the population of people living in Crimea opposed, were joining Russia? Is there actually evidence showing that that was some sort of, that it was opposed by the people that live there? Now, I'm not saying that I know for a fact that it definitely was supported. We had a referendum controlled by Russia that supported it. So you got to take that with a huge grain of salt. But is there actually evidence of the contrary, namely that those people did not want to enter Russia? Like, that would be a point. All right, guys, the squirrel has got a link.
Question number 2 here is what motivates this? What motivates this is that Russia is a great power, and it has absolutely no interest in allowing the United States and its allies to take a big piece of real estate of great strategic importance on its western border and incorporate it into to the West. This should be hardly surprising to the United States of America. As all of you know, we have a Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine basically says that the Western Hemisphere is our backyard, and nobody from a distant region is allowed to move military forces into the Western Hemisphere. I can tell from looking at the audience that most of you are old enough to remember the Cuban Missile Crisis like I am. You remember how we went stark raving crazy at the idea of the Soviets putting military forces in Cuba? This is unacceptable. Nobody puts military forces in the Western Hemisphere. That's what the Monroe Doctrine is all about. Can you imagine 20 years from now a powerful China forming a military alliance with Canada and Mexico and moving Chinese military forces onto Canadian and Mexican soil, and us just standing there and saying, this is no problem. We're all 21st century people, and worrying about Chinese forces there is what 19th century people like Vladimir Putin worry about. Of course, that's not going to happen. We're going to maintain the Monroe Doctrine with regard to China, just as we did with the Soviet Union during the Cold War. So nobody should be surprised that the Russians were apoplectic about the idea of us putting Ukraine on the western side of the ledger. And by the way, they told us, I gave you the quotes, in the wake of the Bucharest summit. I told you what happened in August 2008 with the Georgia war. The precedents were there. The rhetoric was there. They told us. But we did not stop our efforts to make Ukraine part of the West.
Earlier today is so that we get everyone with.
And the point of that is basically Russia has a legitimate interest in not having aggressive, hostile forces on its border. Duh. Midwest Manitoba, thanks for the tier 1. You have to examine the data on any potential referendums prior to Russia's invasion and annexation to compare and contrast the referendum they conducted following their annexation. There certainly was a plurality of ethnic Russians present within Crimea that supported joining the Russian Federation, but whether popular opinion was strong enough to constitute a majority is unclear. Yeah, I agree with that.
To a frenzy and actually escalate to a point where there is actual actual war. The thing that is frustrating about
countries aren't forced to join NATO. They have to apply for membership because they want assurances against Russia. I have a serious question. Did you study World War I? Did you study World War I? You're aware that large entangling alliances over stupid border disputes can cause a world war? Do you understand how it's bad to build a fragile web of alliances with border states that are aggressive towards larger powers? Do you understand how dumb that is? You don't want to build a fragile tangle of alliances where any disruption can cause an escalation to war. That's absurd. The United States should not be going and integrating countries with border disputes of Russia into the NATO. That's absurd. Russia's guaranteeing Serbian independence. The Austro-Hungarians, like, what are you doing?
Sorts of conversations is that it's incredibly difficult to actually fucking push back against any sort of like State Department propaganda. It's so difficult because they hit it on every front. You will hear it from liberals, you will hear it from neoliberals, you'll hear it from conservatives, you'll hear it from every single fucking person, to a degree where it's like the most important news story of the day, the most important thing of the day. You cannot think of anything else other than like, we have to go save Ukrainians. Oh my fucking God. The only way we can do that is by literally sending troops there. Ukraine has to be a part of NATO. They have to fucking fight back against Russia. You know what's going to be awful for Russia and Ukraine? If there's actual fucking war. And you might actually say, well, listen, Russia is still interested in expanding. And to that, I say, yes, I agree. But there is a better way to shut off Russia's expansive policies that revolves around diplomacy and economic control, considering the fucking trade relationships that Russia already has with European superpowers, than to say, we have to fucking put military members, we have to put American troops into Ukraine and fucking fight back in like active, hot warfare. Listen, we already know that the American government operates like the fucking mafia, okay? We build military bases everywhere. It's a fucking protection racket. Protecting from who? Protecting from the mafia. Us, okay? We are the mafia gang. Hey, do you not want us to fuck you up like in an irreparable capacity? Well, guess what? I see some real estate in your country. We're going to fucking pave that shit and we're going to turn that over into a beautiful American military base, which we will then use to further enact our world police mission, okay, globally. And if you say no, we'll fucking kill you, okay? And NATO is just an extension of that, just one other arm of that exact same fucking business that we are engaging in. And yes, the Ukrainians have wanted to be in NATO since fucking G-Dub, okay? George.
Now, obviously, listen, I'm in favor of diplomacy. I'm in favor of the European Union and the United States going to Ukraine, going to Russia as neutral arbiters and hammering out a fair agreement and ratcheting down the tensions. But the idea that the United States should act as some sort of military guarantor is utter madness. The idea that the United States should engage in conflict with Russia and support the Azov Battalion Ukrainian Nazis is absurd. You can tell that it isn't imperialism how Westerners describe it by the fact that several provinces basically of the Donbass show major desire to become Russia, and Russia could easily annex those regions, and it hasn't for basically a decade. And that's obviously true. Your approval rating is at an all-time low. What do you do? I use my leadership experience and historical data to unite our nation. You start a land war with Russia in the winter. Okay, this is so stupid, but it is still funny.
George W. Bush, I think, or was it George H.W.? That's been an interest for a long time. It's a terrible fucking. It's an aggressive stance. It's aggressive posturing against Russia. Okay. That's it. Like it's ridiculous. It's the fuck Russia coalition, and Ukraine is like, let's join the fuck Russia coalition and get like sweet American missiles. I think that utilizing the economic trade capacity and the interest, the reliance that Russia has on European countries, European superpowers, to sell like oil and gas to, using that relationship to bully Russia or to make sure that they do not engage in any sort of expansive action against Ukraine is actually way smarter than being like, we are going to escalate this conflict into all-out war. Nobody fucking wants that. Many Ukrainians, including the president's office, are unhappy with the U.S. order for diplomats' families to leave. Quite frankly, these Americans are safer in Kiev than they are in L.A. or any other crime-ridden city in the U.S. Okay, listen. So obviously nobody wants war, because while Ukraine does have a pretty sizable military force, ultimately it would be fucking horrible for the people of Ukraine if they ended up in like hot conflict with the Russian military forces. It would be awful overall. It would be awful for everybody. You know who wouldn't be awful for? The motherfuckers who are egging this on. UK, the United States, Canada, the tip of the fucking imperialist allegiance, okay? Because they're gonna
tip of the spear. Stavros posted this. If Biden starts a war with these motherfuckers, we're getting washed. It's all fun and games until the bear really wants to wrestle. Apparently they got a bear into an arm wrestling thing and tried to arm wrestle the bear. And the bear's just like chilling there like, give me some honey, motherfuckers.
Поехали. Ready, go! Чуть-чуть, Гога, еще немножко.
The bear's like, what?
Winner, Goga, wins.
The bear's like, what?
Он тебе пятюню дал, ты видел?
The weakest Russian.
Он тебе пятюню такой. Давай, пятюню, брат.
By the way, that bear is so cool. Bears are so cool, man.
Ты че? Реально давит. Молодец. Скользнул лапу, но было очень круто. Он прям давил.
Oh, this guy's like, I'm the bear keeper. Here's some honey.
Молодец, Зерюга.
I mean, just being face to face with a bear and holding its gigantic claws is fucking insane. I mean, I know this bear is probably tame, but what are you doing, bro?
Поехали.
The bear could just decide that he's had enough of you and just end your life instantly. The USSR used to have a Soviet bear. Yeah, I know. We've actually talked about it before.
Sell more guns. That's it. So the people that are literally there are like, no, this is fucking terrible. Can we just like fix this? Shut the fuck up. Except the people that genuinely do think this would be great are the people that are super fucking far removed from the conflict. Okay, they're not at the tip of the spear, but they're certainly, you know, they're the trifecta.
I think one of the things that is important here is I'm not saying that the United States should abandon the world to aggressive fascist expansionist, you know, powers. That's not what I'm arguing for. What I'm arguing for is the idea that the United States should not create entangling alliances. I mean, like, what has been in NATO made Poland better? Poland has a fucking fascist in power. We're doing nothing because Poland is in NATO. We're doing nothing to push back against the growth of the far right in Poland, the far right in Turkey, the far right in Hungary. What I mean, what's the value? What's the value of NATO if it doesn't enforce some sort of at least liberal norms? These are strategic. I mean, this is the problem with these organizations is they just serve to draw us into conflicts that we have no business being a part of.
I think this is great. All it takes right now for this thing to just completely blow up.
Any reason why Hassan pulled up a video of white supremacists being trained in Ukraine? Because they are a key part of Ukraine's government's military is far-right militias, and the Azov Battalion isn't the only one. They have literal neo-Nazis in their military. I'm sorry that that's the reality, but it is.
One group firing shots at another. That's it. Like a tiny piece of conflict will 1000% turn this into gigantic problems. Especially because like we're currently building the powder keg, okay? We're pumping it full of additional gunpowder. That's all the United States is doing. Instead of trying to fucking de-escalate, and there have been conversations this past week. I've been following it. European countries in the US and Ukraine and Russia are taking for like forever, nothing came of it. There are also rounds of sanctions, but Russia still does puppet war in eastern Ukraine and occupies Crimea. Yeah, but it hasn't gotten to a point where we sent fucking 8,500 troops on alert for possible deployment to Eastern Europe amid Russia tensions, okay? By the way, that's why the fucking NATO exists, okay? That's why these alliances exist. That's why the United States operates fucking hundreds of military bases.
You know who's not in NATO? Finland. You know who's not in NATO? Sweden. Huh. Or Austria. I mean, it's odd. I mean, it's odd.
Know of all around the world. So they could just be like, oh yeah, what's up, dude? All right, time to fucking send troops over. This is not good. This is very bad. This is loading up the powder keg instead of de-escalating it. And people that have really adequate, comprehensive skills when they are analyzing de-escalation when it comes to domestic issues, when they're analyzing escalation and de-escalation when it comes to police brutality, cannot comprehend that exact same concept when it comes down to it because they're only seeing Russia as the imperialist actor here. And there is certainly imperialist interest on behalf of Russia. That is true here. If you follow the news closely, then you saw part of the additional escalation from the UK, Canada, and the United States of America, who are the three main advocates for further escalating tension against Russia in Ukraine, was the British intelligence coming out with information that literally, with no fucking facts whatsoever, British intelligence leaked information earlier this morning where they said, okay, that also Russia is interested in overthrowing the Ukrainian government and actually putting in a puppet leadership in the Ukraine. That's what they said. Okay, that's what British intelligence said earlier this morning. No additional information whatsoever. Why are libs rushing into a war? Try rushing into a vajayjay for once. I agree, dude. If you are to look at the actions of the United States, the actions of NATO, and you turn around and you unironically think that like America is doing this out of the kindness of their heart, I don't know what to tell you. There have been a million different cases that you agree on where the United States has been like, oh, we're arming the Mujahideen and whipping them up into a frenzy because the Afghan communist government is doing a bad job, which they were, okay? And now the USSR is getting involved.
By the way, chat, if you want to see this stream continue to grow, make sure that you subscribe. We are 22 subs away from the daily sub goal. I have some links in the chat. You have the YouTube. Subscribe to YouTube. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord. Follow the TikTok. Why not? If you're actually tired of unbelievable warmonger talk that's constantly being pushed by libs and conservatives in this country with no reasonable leftist alternative, well, you've got to support it and make it happen. Be like Obscene Sanity and give 10 gifted subs. Hell yeah. That's Sir Tyler. Thank you for the tier 1. Well, we're getting there. We're only 11 away now, chat. Just 11 away. Canada is uniquely imperialist on Ukraine as the deputy PM is a descendant of Nazis there and had an extensive KGB file on her covert actions in Ukraine in the 90s. Actually, there are Nazi monuments from the Ukrainian nationalist community in Canada. Canada's Nazi monuments. Why does Canada have not one but several memorials to Nazi collaborators? And why, when statues are toppling all over the world, have Canadian Jewish groups remain silent? Graffiti on a monument commemorating Nazi SS division being investigated as a hate crime by police. Ordinarily, you'd assume a headline about Nazis as victims came from The Onion. But it's 2020, so we're well down the rabbit hole of American president who calls neo-Nazis good people. And this is an all-too-real article from the Ottawa Citizen. Graffiti on monument commemorating Nazi SS division being investigated as a hate crime. Someone painted Nazi war monument on a stone cenotaph located in Oakville in the St. Volodymyr Ukrainian cemetery. Oh, wow, that's odd. That's weird. Literal Nazis. You don't even have to say, like, as an analogy, you're like a Nazi. No, literal neo-Nazis and Nazis. And you're telling me we should send American troops? Are you fucking nuts?
DSAL.
Somebody tells me Beverly Hills boy was warmongering. Really? Seriously? Really? Was the Pepela really warmongering towards Ukraine? Really? Turbo, thank you for the prime. And Pay Me to Throw, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Obscene Sanity, thank you for the tier 1. And that's Sir Tyler, thank you for the 4 months. Welcome back.
Which they did, right? Like, oh yeah, we just got to do that. We have to. We just, we have to do that. It's defensive posturing. Oopsie. Now Afghanistan is run by the Taliban again. Okay. Oopsie. Those guys, now incredibly bloody conflict fucking ended up, destroying the USSR in general.
One of his little friends is here asking to be put in fatigues and sent over. No fucking way. No fucking way. No way. I don't pay attention to the liberal Twitter, so I don't follow Pepela V and the Orbiters. So, are they really arguing for Ukraine war? Of course they are. Pepela V said anyone not on board with the U.S. against Russia needs to be silenced. No way, no shot. No shot. I have a very low opinion of Vaush, but there's no fucking way that's real. No way. No, he didn't. I don't believe you, chatter. I don't believe you. There's no way. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. That seems like bait. That seems bait. Yeah. Using the term Nazi can get out of control, kind of like using the term Satanist. Not my cup of tea, but they are used to get people emotional, except when they're actual Nazis.
That was at least a W for the foreign policy wonks at the time. And then
watch V's Russia video then. Watch Vaush's Russia video. Okay, I'm pulling it up, chat.
No. No, I don't think I will.
Okay. Back to a video I want to watch.
now the Taliban's in power. Oopsie. Okay, well, that's fine, though. Those are our guys. Those are our guys. Is this not whataboutism? No, dude. This is the entire reason why you learn about history, okay? What I am doing here is offering you historical context of exactly what the United States has done time and time again, because you, on the one hand, recognize that back then it was bad, but then you still turn around and go,
by the way, I have a low opinion of that community because they're very cliquish and just terrible, and they have bad takes constantly, and they can never, ever, ever admit they're wrong. So I think that that's pretty bad for a leftist. You shouldn't be a cliquish. You don't have to be friends with everybody on the left. You shouldn't. But you should show solidarity and comradeship. And if you disagree with someone, and you should not try to destroy them unless they literally are a right-wing school. You know? So I don't like that shit. I think that sucks. I think it's bad for the left. Cliquishness. And I think largely, like, the debate bro sphere is played out and doesn't work anymore. I think there was a period of time where debate bros maybe had an impact on changing the conversation online. But now we have space, we have our own spaces, and we are making our own influence, and we can build constructively. So I don't really like the concept. But even those people, I don't think would be pro-Ukrainian war or supporting that. That seems crazy. Now, like liberals, like Biden supporting liberals, so yeah, of course. There are literal Nazis that believe in the superiority of the white race and walk openly with Nazi symbols tattooed on their fucking bodies. Yes, exactly.
well, it's kind of good in this situation. It's not. It's not good in this
these people are
situation
about
either.
building leftist momentum and not just view count? Well, anytime I get a whiff that somebody doesn't actually care about leftism, I don't associate with them anymore. Like, if I'm all for, like, I want to see my view count go up. I want to see Hassan's view count go up. I want to see leftist view counts go up. I want leftism to be more popular. But I have to believe at the end of the day, you really support leftism and you want to help it materially, and it's not just about you. If it's only about you, then I don't want to associate with you. If you care about your channel growing, obviously you want your channel to grow. Obviously you want leftism to be more influential. But if I detect that it's all you care about, and you don't have like a leftist culture of solidarity, and you don't want to learn, well then fuck you. I don't want to talk to you. Do you still talk to Lumi? Sure.
I don't know how you don't see it. Like, there's no reason to learn history if you're just gonna fucking keep repeating the mistakes over and over again. And anytime that like anybody fucking whips you up into a frenzy, you're gonna be like, well, there's a justifiable reason to do imperialism in this situation. Sorry, we just have to do it. Liberals think this is World War III. What?
Watching the start of World.
Not me watching the start of World War III on a dance app.
Not me watching the start of World War III.
I mean, this is the most like, I mean, this is true. This is the most Westoid perspective you can have on this matter. It's like, it's good for it's good for the news media. It's good for everybody's fucking interactions. It's good for everyone's social engagements. And it's certainly good for the liberals who are like, I'm the most progressive person. I can show everybody how progressive I am by fucking being like, we need to help Ukraine. We need to help Ukraine every way we can to stop the Russian expansion. It's like, and the only way to stop Russian expansion is by expanding ourselves, just like the only way to stop the ad expansion on the top of the hour is by subscribing with a $5 subscription.
By the way, speaking of subscribing at a $5 subscription, we're 5 subs away from the sub goal, chat. just a mere 5 subs away. We have the goal of getting back to 4,000 subscribers by the end of this month. We need your help. We need your help by supporting the stream.
Description. This motherfucker hashtagged West Elm Caleb, dude.
Wait, what? Hashtag West M Caleb. Really? You just put your face next. Man, TikTok sucks. Conradicat, thank you for the 5 tier 1s. Appreciate that. Cider chillin'. Thank you for the 3. Are you fucking kidding me? West M Caleb was one of those moments where I was like, come on, man. Really? Sorry, I just used my Bezos money on Hassan. Well, use your real money on me then. Cup of Joe, thanks for the tier 1. And Glitterist Lady Dread, thanks for the gifted subs. And Work and Home PA, thanks for the 5 tier 1 subs. Now we're talking. Now we're over the goal.
Interested in what you
Now
would
we're
tell the
over the goal
average
of the
Ukrainian
day.
working class family that is pro-U.S. intervention? Why? So you can clip it and put it on your fucking neoliberal account here. I think some of these points get lost. There are literally hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians who are disillusioned and afraid of war. Oh, wait, never mind. Okay, maybe not. Here's what I would say. I promise, getting help from Western imperialist forces is ultimately going to be so much fucking worse. Okay.
So here's what's going to happen, chat. The United States of America is not stupid. Well, I mean, it is stupid, but I believe in my heart of hearts that it would be so insane for the U.S. to actually fight Russia that it's unlikely that U.S. forces would actually engage in a war with Russia. You know, battlefield is not going to happen. However, I believe that you flood weapons and arms and support into Ukraine in fighting a military conflict, and it could become engulfing and even larger and conflagration that spreads in all sorts of unpredictable and dangerous ways. And the people that will suffer are the Ukrainians. They are the people that will suffer in the conflict. I don't want to see that happen. And if that means some of Ukraine's territory gets chipped away, where there are a majority of people want to join the Russian Federation, I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Okay? So much fucking worse. There are countless examples of American intervention. There are countless examples of American intervention and American involvement and Western intervention in numerous other geopolitical conflicts that have turned out in horrifying ways for the host nation.
Totally
your leadership in the country, your government
totally
in the
right
country may feel like getting NATO help in this circumstance is actually good. You're going to have some sweet dollary dudes coming in. You're going to fucking build some bases, dude. You're going to get some new fucking jets, maybe a defense system, a missile system. Fuck, my dick's getting hard thinking about that, okay? It's cool guns and cool toys. And then maybe, just maybe, you know, you're part of the EU too. You got to be part of NATO. And then, you know, you can get into the EU even, okay? Except the consequences of that are fucking horrifying for the Ukrainian people, who will actually fucking bear the brunt. You know, the average Ukrainian family's children are going to fucking die in this proxy war between Ukraine and Russia, okay? Also, the EU is not going to accept them, you know? I mean, there's that. Ukrainians express confusion and anger.
Nazism is an ideology, you dumb fuck. That's what they stand for. They've got black suns and swastikas and white power tattoos. Their fucking battalion album is a swastika missing 2 outer spokes. They're fucking Nazis. Stop being a complete utter dumbass and listen. Yeah, they absolutely are. Scream Pillow, thanks for the gifted sub. Continuing it from Obscene Sanity. They are... like, Ukraine has Nazis, and they've accepted Nazis into the fold, and they get widespread support. Like, that's just the reality. That's the reality, and it's been known. I mean, it's been known. This is not new information. This is not new information. Okay. Fuck's sake. Come on, Nation Magazine. Don't do this to me. America's collusion with neo-Nazis. Neo-fascists played an important official or tolerated role in U.S.-backed Ukraine. Stephen F. Cohen, Professor Emeritus of Russian Studies and Politics at NYU and Princeton, and John Batchelor continue their usually weekly discussion of a new U.S.-Russian Cold War. So like this is something that's been, and by the way, the Nation isn't some psychotic Russian front. This is mainstream center left magazine. Like, you want to be to the right of the Nation magazine? Come on. This is old information. This is known information. If you consider yourself even a little bit left, you should be, I mean, we're not saying anything that is exaggeration. This is well-supported fact. I don't want to spend American treasure or lives in support of neo-Nazis. Can you talk about some basics? Can you talk about what fascism is? We've talked about it so many times. But basically, a fascist movement is a hyper-nationalist, hyper-militaristic movement that is a popular front against leftism that doesn't have a fixed economic or political ideology. It's known for its quote pragmatism, in the sense that it does whatever it needs to do to increase the power of the fascist movement. They oftentimes exacerbate and rely upon tensions towards ethnic or religious or other minorities who they perceive as both being simultaneously incredibly weak and also incredibly powerful in undermining the nation's virtue. Machismo and misogyny and perceived masculinity are often important elements of fascism. And they typically are hyper-aggressive, irredentist, or even expansionary in their military and foreign policy. Is that clear enough for you? And let me tell you, these neo-Nazis in Ukraine, they fit all of those. Name one U.S. intervention other than World War II where it was the right thing to do / had power outcomes. That's a really tough one. That's a really tougher one. You need a quick bit addressing questions like these. What are Nazism to upload to your YouTube? I feel like these are very useful to put up from time to time. Not a bad idea. They were talking about post-World War II, chat. Mike pondering his orb. I just can't think of American intervention. I mean, boy, it's rough. It's rough to say.
Monday over Washington's decision to authorize the voluntary departure of government employees from Kiev and the order of mandatory withdrawal of family members in the U.S. Embassy personnel. The decision announced by the Department of State cited the threat of Russian military action. It comes as a staggering number of Russian soldiers with heavy weaponry continue.
Oh my God. This is TikTok, chat. Do you even left, bro?
So, do you even left, bro? Today we're asking, what is fascism? Fascism is a far-right ideology based in authoritarian nationalism and tradition. Because of this, it can look different in various countries. In 1995, Umberto Eco releases his essay, Fascism, where he discusses his youth in fascist Italy and 14 characteristics of fascism.
Disclaimer, fascism doesn't work like a checklist. Not all 14 have to be checked for it to be diagnosed fascism, but these are common traits associated.
Traditionalism. Think make America great again. The past holds all knowledge. A rejection of modernism. A disdain for modern media and self-expression. Irrationalism. The distrust of scientists. Utmost allegiance to the nation. An opposition to diversity. The lie that traditionalism will solve modern issues. An identity in race and nationality. Outgroups are the source of every problem. Perpetual war. Exceptionalism. Death in the name of the nation. Glorification of masculinity and phallic weapons like guns and knives. Silencing political opposition. And speaking in dog whistles or coded language. With a long history of anti-fascism, it's important leftists understand the warning signs in order to stop it. So,
that's not bad. But, Umberto Eco's fascism is certainly a good source. That's such a Zoomer video. Oh my God.
Arrive at areas along the Ukraine border, moves that President Joe Biden has warned may be a preparation for a new invasion. The Ukrainians, however, have been more cautious in their assessment of the situation, with current and former national security and defense officials saying they don't recognize Russia's latest military buildup as anything out of the ordinary. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky does not think there's any remotely imminent threat to Kyiv at the moment. A source close to the president told BuzzFeed News on Monday reacting to the partial U.S. withdrawal. The fact that the U.S. was the first one to announce this being the voluntary departures and mandatory withdrawals, is extremely disappointing. And quite frankly, these Americans are safer in Kiev than they are in Los Angeles or any other crime-ridden city in the U.S.
What the fuck? I mean, you can hear the fascists talking. Crime-ridden city in the U.S., said the source. You can hear the fascists talking in the Ukrainian government. Get them the... I mean, are you fucking kidding me, you liberal dipshits who support this crap?
Close to Zelensky said that the president's office viewed the U.S. move as utterly ridiculous and symbolic of what it views as a U.S. inconsistency. On the one hand, Washington tells Ukraine how we should
Tampa native says, I realized during the FDR historical review the other day that what made America great in the first place was socialist policy. I mean, you know, listen, I don't think you should describe the New Deal as socialist policy, but what you would describe it is as a concession to a working class and a social democratic movement that contained a lot of socialists and communists. American left before Truman and after Truman is a big difference. Like, the left in America contained socialists, contained communists in the 40s. And after FDR died and Truman went into power and the Cold War was launched, they purged those people. And ever since, organized labor, the left has been declining in America. That's the truth. So, you know, American workers made America great, which is obviously true.
We stand with you. It's your right to determine to join the West. We will stand.
Why does your channel not have your name as your name? Because it is a platform that I've created. And a committee is basically all of you. You know, I'm just the first among equals, chat. There was a literal U.S. Union general in World War II who was a Marxist and personal friends with Karl Marx. Yeah, no shit.
Stand with you against Russian aggression, the source said, mimicking messages of support from the U.S. to Ukraine in the past. Then Russia turns up the temperature, and they're the first to leave. The State Department and U.S. Embassy didn't immediately return a request for comment. Zelensky has tried to keep Ukrainians calm and avoid to panic as warnings from Western governments reverberate in Kiev. In a televised address to the nation last week, the president told his people, "What's new? Isn't this the reality for 8 years? Didn't the invasion start in 2014? Did the threat of a large-scale war appear only now? These risks existed. They haven't become bigger. The excitement around them, however, has grown. I wonder why." This is exactly what I said, by the way.
Biden wagging the dog, according to the Ukrainian government. According to the Ukrainian government, the buildup of troops on Russia's border is not a big deal. So who am I supposed to believe, chat? Why should I believe the Ukrainian president?
Not the fucking Russian stance or Russian posturing that is the true fucking escalation of war. It's actually Western forces.
Zelensky is not a fascist. I wasn't calling Zelensky a fascist, by the way, Ryman Zeta. It was whoever that source was they were quoting was spouting right-wing shit about a crime-ridden American cities.
Fucking operating out of DC, that are operating out of fucking London.
You see Jessica Cisneros got endorsed by the
fucking
Texas
hyping up
AFL-CIO?
war. Anyway, does the Russian government really feel threatened? Do they really believe they would be attacked, or is it just to escalate for an excuse to start war? No. Vladimir Putin...
Oh, Mike, you know better. Like, believing the leaders of Afghanistan before its fall. Sky Beastie, if you watched my stream in the summer, then you know that I predicted well before everyone else that the Ukrainian puppet government wasn't going to last. Not the the Afghanistan puppet government was not going to last. I was one of those people that was scoffing at the idea that Afghanistan troops were going to stand alone. I was talking about how they had no legitimacy within the Afghan people. I was talking about how we supported pedophiles that were hated by the Afghan people and that they welcomed the Taliban to get rid of the rape of their children. So yeah, no, I saw that one coming big time, buddy. Yeah, no, it's no worries, but like, and I'm not trying to say that the Ukrainian government is, you know, there's just no evidence to believe that we should be injecting ourselves into Ukraine. Literally everyone knew that, and yet Mike called it. I mean, I had a bunch of people saying that we should stay in Afghanistan to prop up the government and build up Afghanistan. I had, like, quote, leftists coming at me and calling me Mike from Taliban for simply stating the facts about Afghanistan and how it was extremely unpopular in the country, and that the Afghan national government was extremely unpopular, had no legitimacy, and there was nothing we could have done differently. Grev, I know I'm not going to even watch this because I know that you are simply trying to get me with a for no reason. Then we could have been pulled out and it wouldn't have been so embarrassing. Folks, there was no way. Afghan prediction? Okay. Oh! You almost got it. Good try. You almost got it. You almost got it. That's a good attempt at a Rickroll or a poop sock or whatever that was. You almost got it.
Wants to fucking saber rattle as he always does, so that he can fucking exert authority, control, make it seem like he's posturing against Western expansion and Western imperialism. The real threat is from Ukraine joining NATO, though. That is a legitimate fucking act of aggression. By the way, the funniest part about this is, like, they're not even a fucking NATO country, but they're being treated like a NATO country. And then you wonder why fucking Putin doesn't want Ukraine to be in NATO. Like, that's what happens when you're a fucking NATO country, dude. What the fuck? Meanwhile, the Ukrainian authorities are like, hold the fuck up. What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Vladimir Putin, in the talks that he had with Joe Biden, said, there's no need for war. We do not want to fucking do war. We do not want to you're causing panic. All you need to do is just give us assurances that, like, Ukraine will not be a part of NATO. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter, because you never hear that. And then when I mention it, and I have before in the past fucking month, I have mentioned this stuff. Whenever I mention it, you go, hey, why do you even trust Putin? Putin's not telling the truth. Okay, I get it. Like, Putin is not telling the truth. He's a fucking liar. Of course, he's a authoritarian dickhead. But, like, it's not in his best interest to actually engage in, like, regular conflict either. It's in his best interest, however, to do the strategic posturing against Western imperialist forces and then fucking turn around and say, look, I got a dub. Ukraine is never going to be a part of NATO. Look at that dub. But Americans don't want to give him that dub. What's worse, in your opinion, Russian invasion and takeover or Ukraine joining NATO? No, the Russian invasion and takeover is fucking awful. And so is the Ukraine joining NATO, because the Ukraine joining NATO will engage in some form of Russian invasion and conflict. So ultimately, both of those roads lead down to Russian invasion. The best thing to do is de-escalate by using the trade relations that they have with Russia. Okay? By using your words, just be nice. No, it's not using your words. It's material power. It's exercising the number one thing that everyone cares about, which is money. Why should Russia decide if Ukraine is going to be in NATO or not? Because NATO is a fucking anti-Russia organization. That's it. So as a regional superpower, they are saying, this is our red line. We do not want this. I personally do understand that. Like, I get why they would not want that. It's not in their best interest to allow that to happen. Of course not. Why the fuck would they want that? Why can't Ukraine be anti-Russia if NATO is a regional superpower? No, Ukraine can be anti-Russia. That's fine. Ukraine being anti-Russia is normal. It's understandable. NATO is a different ballgame. Look at what's going on right now. The reason why we're having this conversation is because the Western world is currently utilizing Ukraine as though it's a NATO member. That's what's going on. That's it. So you are simultaneously, on the one hand, being like, dude, what's so bad about Ukraine joining NATO? While also, on the other hand, seeing the impact of what happens when Ukraine is a NATO, because we're behaving like Ukraine is NATO currently. Also, the U.S. decision to fucking remove diplomats' families from Ukraine is the perfect example of how U.S. treats its allies, okay? You are nothing but a tool. You are nothing but a fucking tool. All right, I'm done with this.